Yep. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, this, from the last car you've seen, you may think that it's not at all, because it looks very different from the last car, but this is also a Mustang, just from a different era. Okay, Scott, now, basically, I could go ahead. Basically, you got this car. Now, when's the first time you drove this thing?
When I was 16, when I was learning how to drive.
Okay.
So we've had it, going back to the beginning. This is a 1966 Mustang that my dad bought when it was about 1.5 years old. Just bought it for a work car, didn't think he was going to keep it very long, and we've wound up hanging on to it this whole time. Next month it'll be 47 years that it's been in our family.
47-year anniversary.
Yep.
So you had it basically...
Almost since new, except for the first 1.5 years, it's been ours the whole time.
Yeah, right, because it's 1967, but they introduced new cars in like September, 3 months beforehand, right?
Right, they do, but this was actually used though. It was about 1.5 years old, so it was used. It did have one previous owner prior to us getting it.
Mm-hmm. And how many miles did it have when you guys first got it?
21,000.
So you took this up as a teenager. Now you sir, did you learn? So you were trained with this car how to drive?
This one and a couple other ones, yes.
Okay.
So I didn't learn to drive this one very first because this car didn't have power steering or power brakes, and takes a little more effort to drive it when you're learning how to drive. So I started off with another car we had at the time, and then after I got used to driving a stick shift, then eventually, got to drive this one.
What was the driving laws like back then? How old you had to be to get a driver's license?
It was 16.
16?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was 1982 when I got my license.
Even like Tim's had to be 16.
I think so, or maybe I think 15 and a half maybe. I'm not sure exactly now, but yeah, I'm thinking 15 and a half maybe for Tim's.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, now you were trained with this car and everything like that, and 16. Now, what are cars you learned from? And did you you probably used it? They probably taught driver's ed back then in the early 80s,
sure.
didn't they? Mm-hmm. So you did a driver's ed thing course. Where'd you go to high school at?
Hamilton High School.
Okay, who was your driver's ed teacher?
I don't remember the gentleman's name. It's been too long ago.
Well, in the late 90s when I went,
mm-hmm.
they had Mr. B teacher class.
Mm-hmm.
But my actual driver's ed teacher is actually my health teacher, Mr. Vieira.
Mm-hmm.
So I was gonna say maybe because Mr. B but Mr. B when I had him like as an instructor, like when he was like, see what happened was Mr. Vieira took me for driving lessons, and Mr. B actually did the lecture class.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. B at the time when I had him in the late 90s was 65 years old. So
now that I think of it, the guy's name might have been Roden, but it's like I said, it's been a long time ago. It's hard to remember now.
Yeah.
I just remember the driver's ed car was a Chevy Citation. Mm-hmm. So, which you don't see many of those on the road anymore. They're pretty well all gone.
Many memorable incidences with Mr. Roden?
I remember for whatever reason, I had the tendency to want to brake with my left foot, and I know at one point he had a stick in the car, and he basically threatened me if I kept doing that. He was just kidding, but yeah, it just was one of those things. I was just braking with the wrong foot when I was learning how, but I got onto it eventually.
Yeah, that was kind of thing kind of got me too. I'd always used they always told you to use basically one foot, but I was always like braking with the wrong one
right,
when I was going to learn how to drive. But they had those automatic the passenger side had automatic brake,
Right. But my grandmother had a '77 Buick Skylark, and I took my driver's ed test in that because it was an automatic. But then because at the time all we had was stick shifts, so. Mm-hmm. Decided it was probably better for me to take the car or take the test within a car with an automatic transmission. It would just be a little easier.
Yeah. Okay, Ford. Now this car is really nice. Has this car been like any other colors since, or this is very much the final word?
It's always been burgundy, and it's been repainted in the past, but it's always been I've always kept it the same color.
Mm-hmm. How much does it cost for a paint job for this car?
Now, it's expensive. It's probably, it just depends on the level that you want it done. I actually took it to a restoration shop, and for what they considered would be a show quality finish, This was just recently. They quoted me $20,000 to $30,000. I actually talked to someone else that said they could, and the same person that repainted my silver car, and he told me he could repaint that for $7,500. So that's a lot more reasonable.
You could buy a new. You could buy like a new That's over a price for a new car. Or
it is.
You could buy several. You could buy several good used cars for that.
Well, I think that they probably just, for whatever reason, didn't want to work on the car, and I think they just threw a big price at me to scare me away, and it worked, because I definitely don't have that kind of money to spend on it.
Yeah.
But the finish is good. There's some things about it that I've never been the last repaint. They're just, like I said, it's very nice, and most people that see it think I'm nuts for considering wanting to have it redone, but there's just some things about it that I've never been quite happy with. And I will probably leave it this way for a while, but ultimately I would like to get it done one more time and just really get it done, just everything just perfect on it. Don't know exactly when that'll happen, but I would like to do it at some point.
Well, okay, your dad bought this for work originally?
He did.
Okay, now what did he do?
He worked for Champion Paper Company here in Hamilton, so he had a short commute, and he just needed something economical to get him back and forth to work. And, you know, it was just a really basic, no-frills car, but that's all he needed.
Grandpa worked for Champion also.
Yep, I remember that.
Well, okay, so when did you decide that you started having this car when he was 16? Now, was this like a temporary car for you, and your dad finally let you have it after a certain age, or what?
Well, we had talked about me getting it back when I was going to college, but I knew that if I drove it every day, it would deteriorate, and I didn't want to see that happen to it. And I was hoping to get it and be able to fix it up and keep it, you know, much as I've done now with it. So I just waited, and it was not until 2000 when it actually became my car. And one day I just said, when am I going to get this car? How long am I going to wait? And he said, well, if you want to take over the insurance on it, you can have it. And I was like, okay.
When's the last time your dad's drove this thing?
It's been a number of years. I know one point he had to move. I had it pulled out of the garage, and they were working on the garage door opener or something. And then when he went to pull it back inside, and just that little bit, he said it was just hard for him to drive, just because of his age and everything. And the power steering, it was kind of tough. So
might be a little personal, but I was going to say it was like pre-21st century the last time he drove this.
Yeah, it probably was. As a matter of fact, it's probably been that long ago. I don't remember exactly when, but I know it's been a long time, probably, well, since I've had it, and maybe even prior to when I got it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I just don't remember the exact time frame, but I know it's been a while.
Well, I want to talk to you about your. Now, I went to car show the other day and felt a little bit, and I interviewed a guy who won a trophy in this car parade. They said downtown Hamilton. Now, I think Grandpa's entered this before. Now, you've entered this car in a downtown parade, Hamilton's downtown parade this past weekend.
Yes.
And you got a nice little prize out of it.
I did. I got first place in my class, which was 64.5 to 66 Mustangs closed.
Now, how did you? What kind of work did you have to do to roll this car? I mean,
well,
did you? I don't think they just I don't think you just pull up and they just let you go in the parade.
Well, the past week I spent a lot of time working on the engine compartment, as you can see here.
Okay. Oh, I love blue.
Well, that was the original color. That's the color they painted them from the factory. So I'm just keeping it all back to factory specs.
Yeah. So this is like the original engine, basically?
It is the original engine. I had it rebuilt the winter before last, but it is the original engine to the car.
Okay, now, how do you... Now, describe for me the paperwork. You must have some... I don't think that parade people will just... I don't think you'll just drive up into the car and they'll just let you go in to parade automatically. Do you have to fill out some kind of paperwork or something?
Well, you register for the parade, and the car has to be 25 years of age or older to be eligible. So, and it has to be in relatively good condition. They don't have to be absolutely perfect, but they don't want them to be
breaking down in the middle of the parade
and rusted out messes or anything like that. They want them to be overall in pretty good condition. So, but there's not a lot of standards other than that. They want them to be all stock too. They don't want any modified cars in the parade. They want them to be in all stock condition.
Okay. So you registered this past week, you said?
It was a few weeks ago. I sent my registration in.
Did they call you or what?
They just they have your registration on file, and then when you show up, there's a table where you can go over, and they'll have everything in folders, and give them your name, they'll go through and they'll pull out your packet and your windshield card and everything, and it's already done. The nice thing about the parade is it's free up until about a week or so before, and if you wait till the last minute to register, the last week or so, it's $10. But prior to that, it's free. Where they used to charge for it, and so now they've changed that, and that's been a nice thing. It's gotten a lot more people involved in it, I think.
Well, I was wondering. Okay, now you went to the parade. Now, how far? Not that this really matters, but like how far into the parade were you? I mean, were you at the beginning of the parade or
we
toward the end?
were at the beginning of the parade. They were featuring Mustangs this year for their 50th anniversary, so all the Mustangs got to go first. So it was up toward the front of the line this time.
Oh, okay. Now when did you guys start, and where did you guys end?
Started over at Walmart, and it was at 1 o'clock.
Princeton, Walmart?
No, the Walmart over here on 177.
Main Street?
Main Street,
yeah.
And went down through downtown Hamilton into Fairfield. Got down to a shopping plaza at Sims and Route 4, and there was a kind of just a parade rest there. And then we went back through Fairfield into Hamilton, and then wound up down downtown Hamilton around the courthouse.
Fun?
Yes, yeah, I always enjoy it.
How many cars?
Done it for years and always like it.
How many cars did you see in there? How many cars they have in that thing? Do you know?
I'm not sure what the total count was. It was a little bit rainy that morning, and there was the threat of severe weather, so they, I think the count might have been down just a little bit, but they still had a really good turnout. I would expect there was easily 250 cars and probably more than that.
See, ones you have a lot of respect for. See other cars there that you really.
Oh yeah, I mean I've got
stole your heart.
Oh well, I didn't get a lot of time to look around at the other cars this time, but there always is. I mean, there's always just some really nice unrestored original cars that I'm always. I'm always an admirer of cars like that have just been well preserved and are just basically as they were when they were new and never have had any restoration work done to them.
Okay, I want to tell you about something here. Now, how often is your Mustang here? Your 1967. How often does it need an engine change? I mean an engine change and oil change.
Oil change. It's still 3,000 miles. I think is a good average. On something like this, it probably goes more by time than it does by mileage, because I probably won't even put 3,000 miles in a year on it. I'm trying to drive it more now that I've got the engine rebuilt, but I'll change it, make a point of changing it at least once a year. Then sometimes maybe only put 1,000 miles or so on it, but yeah, I'd say it seemed like over the last few years, just because of the fact that it's been driven a very limited amount, I'd say probably just once or twice a year. That's about it, but that's really all that's been necessary.
Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead over here and see. Well, let's just see your seats here. What kind of seats you got?
Okay. Let me get the door unlocked here.
Looks good here. These seats are. Describe the interior for this.
Well, this is a standard interior, vinyl bucket seats. I have made some additions to it. Originally, it didn't have the center console. I have added that. The two dials that you see there on the steering column, that's called a rally pack. It's got a clock and tachometer. That was an option. The radio has been changed to AM, FM. Just some things to dress it up. All things you could have bought as options from the dealer back in the 60s. But these are, well, the console's an original console. The rally pack's a reproduction, and the radio is a reproduction. But it's a very authentic reproduction, and that was the whole thing. I just was trying to stick with the original look as much as possible. I just didn't want to put a lot of aftermarket pieces on it. I wanted to try to really keep it stock looking, even though I wanted to make some changes to it. I still wanted to look basically the way it would back in the day when it was new.
Oh, okay. So this is you're trying to reserve that nostalgic kind of look.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I would say, you said this is a stick.
It is.
Standard shift. Now, when I worked at the movie theater, and you gotta remember, this is like early 2000s, I worked at the movie theater, and a lot of us, we were like 16 to 24 years old in early 2000s. A lot of us, there was only like two members of staff. There was only two members of staff who knew how to drive a standard. Everybody else's cars was automatic. None of us knew how to do it. Now, how easy was that for you to learn that?
It probably took me about a month of practice before I got really good at it. It's just a matter of just learning to just coordinate everything. The starting out is the hardest part, because the person has a tendency to let off the clutch too fast. The car will jerk. You just have to learn to let off of it smooth and still give it enough gas at the same time, so you actually start to move forward. A lot of times people let off the clutch, they won't give it gas, the car will stall, or like I said, they'll let off of the clutch too fast and the car will jerk. So it's just a matter of just getting used to it. It just takes a lot of practice. But yeah, I'd say probably after about a month, I think I've finally gotten the hang of it.
Yeah, well, the thing was, I think what bothered most people was you don't see any symbols. Now, Grandpa and Mom, they drove a standard shift, but the thing was though, the one thing I think was the thing about most people would drive automatic. You see the initials for everything: drive, reverse. I think people, it's kind of hard to guess like which is which.
Just on the shift knob there, it's just reverse, first, second, and third. So it's just got a pattern, that H pattern stamped on the end of the gear shift knob, so you know which gear to put it in.
Okay. Do you think, like, when you're like really old, you'll sell this car at all? Or pass it down to the family?
Well, I don't have any kids, so I don't have anyone to leave it to in that respect. I have a niece and nephew, but neither of them really are interested in cars. It's just transportation to them. I'll probably sell it at some point. I don't know when. I don't have any specific plans as to when I'll do that. I plan on having it for a while, but I'll probably sell it at some point. And I'll probably put the money toward retirement.
Oh, that's good. Thank you for the interview.
All right, thank you.
I'll go grab this car one more time. It's a 67 Mustang.
66.
66 Mustang coupe. For coupe, right?
Yes.
So, good luck. Well, what are we?